Hey guys, tonight we drift back to a morning colder than your ex's goodbye text. A battlefield shrouded in fog, breath steaming from soldiers' lips, boots crunching over frosty mud, and somewhere out there, waiting, you, Napoleon. And no, not the cartoon version with the funny hat and tiny dog. Tonight you are the emperor himself. You're wrapped in a long coat, scanning a valley you've chosen not just to fight on, but to transform into a stage for your greatest performance. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment below, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Always curious to see who else can't sleep. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before the sun, though technically it's December 2nd, 1805, and the sun might as well be dead. The frost clings to the grass like desperate hands. You rise from a few hours of sleep on a straw mattress in a nearby farmhouse, your headquarters for the night, feeling the weight of a dozen nations pressing against your chest. You don't drink coffee because you're Napoleon, and sleep is already a luxury. Instead, you walk, you inspect, you listen. The Austrians and Russians combined, they outnumber you by nearly 20,000 men. But what they have in numbers, you have in audacity. You're about to convince them to walk straight into your blade. As you mount your horse and ride toward the edge of the Pratzen Heights, you give subtle orders. Shift a regiment. Send Murat there. Tell Davout to hurry. The fog helps. It rolls, in thick and low, blanketing the valley in a ghostly silence. You want them to see nothing but confusion. To believe that you're nervous, that you're out of position, that your right flank is weak and exposed. And the best part? They buy it. Hook, line, and historical facepalm. The Allies, led by Tsar Alexander. I and General Kutuzov peer through the mist, thinking, this is it. This is where we crush the Corsican upstart. You almost want to laugh, but you don't. Not yet. You watch them reposition their troops, pulling men away from the central ridge to hammer your vulnerable right side. Every minute they adjust, you become more certain. The plan, the trap, is working. It's like watching someone stack bowling pins perfectly just before you roll a cannonball. One of your aides, probably the fourth guy this week, to catch you pacing at 3 a.m., asks if you're sure. You just nod. You don't explain to them that you've been planning this for weeks, that you've walked this battlefield in your mind 100 times. You don't tell them about the way you arranged the soldiers' fires at night to look smaller. You let your silence do the intimidating. A fun fact while we're here, Napoleon often carried a vial of poison in case he was captured. Yes, the ultimate "I'd rather not" card. Not that he needed it today, but the kind of man who brings a self-destruct button to work isn't exactly planning to lose. Hours pass, and the sun begins to rise. Not just any sun. This is the legendary sun of Austerlitz. And it's not just a weather update. It's a symbol. It breaks through the mist like a divine spotlight, hitting the battlefield at an angle so perfect, you might wonder if you had the forecast written into the script. The golden light floods over your troops, catching bayonets and helmets in a sudden shimmer. It's cinematic, it's motivational, it's kind of unfair, honestly. That's when you give the signal. Quietly, precisely. Your men are ready, your enemies are not. The bait has been taken, the board is set. As you turn your horse and begin to ride, you know. Today you're not just going to win, you're going to make history blush. You don't charge into battle with bravado. You guide it, like an orchestra conductor who replaced the violins with artillery and gave the timpani to a guy named Salt. The morning's fog hasn't entirely lifted, but it doesn't matter. You already see the lines moving, like ghostly waves across a frozen sea. And there, to the south, just as you predicted, the Allied forces are shifting. They're massing against your right flank, chasing what they think is your weak spot. You smile. It's not arrogance, it's relief, because your greatest risk is now your greatest opportunity. You've made them come to you, and now it's time to close the gates. You recall a conversation the night before when one of your marshals asked why you were weakening the right. You told him the truth, but not all of it. We must lure them in. Simple, understated. Like telling someone you're going for a walk when you're actually planning to wrestle a bear with a baguette. The real reason. You needed them to commit, to overreach, to separate themselves from the ridge at Pratzen. Because once they moved there, once they exposed that center, you'd strike like a blade through silk. Your orders are already echoing across the frostbitten field. Davout's corps is pushing hard from a forced march, racing to reinforce the weak flank. You've sent in one of your best 28,000 men who weren't even supposed to be there by dawn, but they arrive just in say. Time to act surprised and terrified. Drama class, past. You can almost hear the confusion in the Allied command as they realize your right isn't crumbling, it's holding, and even growing teeth. Meanwhile, from your high ground, you can see Murat's cavalry swirling like dancers, with swords. Not random, not chaotic. Every lunge and charge serves a single goal: stall them, distract, entangle. You don't want to win on the right, yet. You want them to think they still can. Give them a taste, let them take another bite. You're setting a trap more delicate than any snare, wrapped not in rope, but in overconfidence. And the center? Oh, they've left it barely guarded. You'd think they were saving it for someone, and they were, for you. Here's a weird little detail. Napoleon was obsessed with maps, like sleep with them under your pillow, obsessed. Before Austerlitz, he studied the topography so obsessively that he knew which trees could hide a battalion. Today, that obsession pays off. As the Allies keep flooding southward, away from the ridge, your gaze turns to Soult and his corps, your scalpel. You order him forward. No roar, no drum roll, just one command. The sun of Austerlitz has risen. And with that, Soult begins his silent climb. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. You're still playing them, still dragging them deeper into the pocket, like a poker player flashing a nervous eye twitch while holding 4 aces. You give ground just enough. You let their cavalry charge further. And as the sun burns away the last threads of fog, you finally see it, the overextension. Their lines pulled thin, like old elastic. And you? You haven't even moved your center. Quick joke to break the tension. Why don't 19th century emperors play hide and seek? Because good luck hiding when you're surrounded by 70,000 men and the smell of horse sweat. But seriously, the size of the armies here is staggering. Over 150,000 troops clashed today. If you stacked their muskets, they'd pierce the clouds. If you lined up the wounded, they'd stretch from Austerlitz to Paris. And yet, despite the noise and size and chaos, you feel something calm, controlled. You've sculpted the chaos. You don't just command armies, you bend them to your rhythm. As if each regiment was a phrase in your sentence. As if the entire battlefield was a single breath you held in your lungs. An aide rides up, flushed, breathless, reports from the right, heavy combat, but no collapse. Good, exactly as expected. You wave him off and keep your eyes forward. You don't need to look back, you already know your line will hold. What matters now is timing. Timing so precise it could slice atoms. The Allies think they're winning. That's the best part. They believe this is the moment their coalition redeems itself, that your empire ends in a freezing field with their flags waving in the wind. Let them believe, for just a little longer. Because when the hammer drops, when your center moves, it won't be a battle anymore. It'll be a message carved into history with gunpowder and blood. You watch as Soult's men begin their ascent, boots crunching through frozen grass, bayonets catching that honey-gold light like spears held by gods. The Pratzen heights rise before them, gentle, almost innocent. But you know better. You know, this ridge is the spinal cord of the entire battlefield. Whoever holds it controls the nerve center of this war. And right now, thanks to your beautifully orchestrated misdirection, it's practically abandoned. The Allies left it like someone forgetting their phone at a coffee shop. And you're already reaching for it. Soult advances in tight formation, your voice in his head. March swiftly, attack vigorously, and never look back. Below the ridge, the Russian General Kutuzov squints through the fog, and for the first time that morning, something twitches in his gut. Too late. He's already committed too much to your baited right flank. By the time he realizes what you're doing, your forces are halfway up the ridge and climbing faster than a caffeine-fueled squirrel on a power line. The battle erupts like a firecracker in a hay barn. As Soult's men crest the heights, the Austrians and Russians stationed there. What Little resistance remains, begin scrambling. They're caught mid-deployment in transit, almost daydreaming. It's like someone trying to fix a leaky faucet just as the house floods. You hear the first thunder of cannon fire roll across the valley, muffled by the hills, but sharp enough to pierce the morning chill. The ridge is waking up, and you're the alarm. You ride higher for a better view, positioning yourself where the entire battlefield unfolds like a living painting. Troops clashing in tight formations, flags flapping like restless spirits, and smoke beginning to rise in slow, angry spirals. You feel the tempo shift. This is no longer prelude, this is Act 1, Scene 1 of your personal opera. And guess what? You wrote the score. As Soult's corps secures the heights, a second wave pushes through behind him, strengthening your hold like cement poured into a crack. You watch the Allies flinch. They're scrambling now, trying to redirect units that are already too far gone. Their commanders shout conflicting orders, horses stumble, flags twist. From this moment, the day belongs to you. All because you knew they'd go south. You knew they'd get greedy. You knew they'd leave the center vulnerable. Strange historical twist. Many of the Allied commanders didn't trust each other. The coalition, for all its grandeur, was like a group project where nobody reads the shared document. Tsar Alexander wanted glory. Kutuzov wanted caution. The Austrians just wanted to go home. They weren't aligned, and today they'd pay for that lack of harmony with blood and frost. You turn to Berthier, your chief of staff, and give the next command. Press forward, drive the wedge, split their army. Like an axe to a frozen pond, the maneuver cleaves the battlefield in two. Your right holds, your left waits. And now your center, the soul of your army, is hammering through their gut. It's not just strategy, it's art, it's music. You've taken dissonance and made it symphonic. A moment of comedy, because even geniuses need levity. One of your grenadiers, caught in the thick of pushing up the ridge, trips over a frozen turkey leg left from the Allied camp breakfast. He curses, gets up, and keeps charging. War is hell, but occasionally it's also slapstick. By midday, the heights are fully yours. The sun still hangs low, but the fog is long gone. What remains is smoke, screams, and the clatter of sabers. You see Allied columns turning, twisting, unsure of where to go. Their retreat routes are clogged, their communication lines severed. You've not just beaten them tactically, you've humiliated them structurally. Down below, a Russian battery tries to wheel into position. Too late. Your men are already upon them. The cannons fire wildly, too short, too wide. It's like throwing darts in an earthquake. They wanted to drown you with force. Instead, they're drowning in confusion. You spot a figure in the distance, tall, young, bedecked in imperial arrogance. Tsar Alexander himself, reportedly watching from a church spire. If he's praying, it's not working. He's witnessing the collapse of his first major battle, the disintegration of an alliance and the rise of an emperor, whose smile only widens with every retreating battalion. And yet, even now, you don't gloat. Not openly. You remain poised, dignified, because you understand something deeper. This isn't the end of a war. It's the birth of a legend. And legends aren't loud. They whisper. They etch their names into ridges like Pratzen, where every inch you gain becomes a story that will echo through textbooks and tired schoolchildren for centuries. You close your eyes for a moment. Not in exhaustion, but in awareness. You breathe in the scent of gunpowder, sweat, and early winter. You've seized the heights. You've turned the battle. And now, like a master tactician drawing the final line in the sand, you prepare to tighten the noose. The noose tightens like a serpent around its prey, slow at first, then all at once. From your vantage point atop the Pratzen heights, the battlefield stretches like a tapestry, unraveled by panic. You see it all, the fractured lines, the scrambling officers, the Allied soldiers running toward orders that no longer make sense. Your center now dominates the high ground, and with it, you control not just the physical battlefield, but time itself. Every second that passes is yours. Every breath they take, a beat closer to defeat. You don't pursue them yet, you don't have to. You let fear do the chasing. Below the ridge, Soult's corps fans out, pressing forward in a widening arc. Allied army is now split into isolated chunks, each group trying to reconnect, to reform, to understand what just happened. But the moment for understanding has long passed. You gave them all the clues: fog, movement, misdirection, and they still fell into the trap. Now their left flank is retreating in disarray, and their center is collapsing under the weight of your momentum. You barely speak, you just nod, and entire divisions move. You are not shouting commands anymore. You are conducting fate. To the north, Bernadotte's Mass Corps begins its coordinated press, linking with Lannes and pushing down against Buxhausen's Russian forces. It's like watching tectonic plates grind together, except these plates wear wool uniforms and smell like unwashed ambition. The Allies try to hold, but with the center broken and the heights lost, resistance becomes improvisation. Soldiers are fighting with bayonets, gun butts, even fists. It's brutal but clumsy. You've already taken the elegance from their playbook. What's left is noise. Here's your odd little fact for this chapter of the story. One of Napoleon's aides recorded that his emperor didn't touch food or water for nearly 12 hours during Austerlitz. Total focus. A single sugar cube in the morning. That's it. No sandwich breaks, no espresso shots. Just pure, focused, glacial determination. And now that laser-like intensity radiates from your every order. While the battlefield descends into chaos, you remain composed, almost eerily so, like someone solving a Rubik's Cube in a hurricane. You dispatch the guard to hold the center ridge, ensuring no counterattack can retake it. Meanwhile, Murat's cavalry has begun sweeping through the Allied rear, targeting artillery reserves and supply wagons. You watch as entire convoys collapse into flame and confusion. It's like watching someone set fire to their own instruction manual. Every time, the Allies try to regroup. They realize the ground they're standing on no longer belongs to them. You've not only seized space, you've robbed them of direction. Somewhere to the south, the Austrian general Kienmeyer attempts a desperate counterattack. It's bold. You respect bold. But he's too late, and he's charging uphill. Never charge uphill against Napoleon. It's practically a rule, like don't microwave foil or don't text your ex after 2 glasses of wine. You let his men exhaust themselves on your new defensive lines, and then, only then, you counter. Swift, sharp, surgical. The hills echo with retreat calls. The sun, still hovering low, gleams off the sabers of your cuirassiers as they descend into fleeing enemy ranks like thunder on horseback. And still you do not stop. You turn to Soult again. One phrase: push them into the lakes. The southern retreat routes near Satchan are bordered by frozen ponds, thin sheets of ice hiding deep, frigid water. The Allied soldiers, desperate to escape your grip, make for the shortest route, across. Big mistake. Under the weight of men, horses, and wagons, the ice begins to groan. Then, with a sound like cracking bones, it shatters. What follows is not a slaughter, it's a drowning. Hundreds, possibly thousands, plunge into the icy water. Some try to swim. Most can't. The weight of their gear drags them down. The surface refreezes slowly, sealing the fate of those beneath. You don't cheer, you don't laugh. This isn't a moment of triumph, it's a reminder. War is not glory. War is cold and wet and absolute. A quick, strange detail. Some accounts claim that Napoleon ordered cannon fire onto the ice to ensure more enemy troops would sink. Others dispute it. You never confirm it. But history loves the image. The emperor who broke the ice to end the war. Myth or fact, it sticks. Like a watermark on this day. By late afternoon, the field is yours. Entire divisions of the Allied army have surrendered. The rest flee in whatever direction doesn't smell like France. You dismount, boots landing on frosted earth that's been turned to mud by hoof and blood. You survey the scene with a distant calm, as though this was never in doubt. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was always going to end this way because you saw it, because you made it happen, because you understood people more than they understood themselves. Tsar Alexander is already gone, having fled the field hours ago. He will later call Austerlitz a lesson. Kutuzov will say nothing. There is nothing to say. The coalition is shattered. Austria will sue for peace. Russia will slink back to the east, licking its wounds. And you? You stand atop a ridge, with the sun in your eyes, the wind at your back, and history at your feet. The field is quiet now. Quiet in the way a thunderstorm is quiet after it's passed through, leaving everything soaked, scorched, and stunned. The air hangs heavy with smoke and the distant hiss of cooling iron. You stand on the Pratzen Heights, looking down at what used to be a coalition army and is now just a tangle of broken formations and lost intentions. A few cannons still lie half buried in mud, their barrels pointing toward the sky like accusations. But no one's listening anymore. Because you, Napoleon, have already written the final sentence of this day's history. And you did it with steel, fog, and timing so perfect it almost feels like cheating. Your aides begin arriving one by one, faces flushed from cold and adrenaline. They report in quick, clipped French. The Austrian left has disintegrated. The Russian center is gone. The last reserves of both empires are retreating eastward in clumps, too disorganized to even call it an army anymore. They flee like tourists, who missed their train, stumbling over each other, tossing supplies, anything to go faster. You nod silently. You're not interested in chasing ghosts. What matters now is sealing the victory, carving it into stone before it fades into rumor. Marshal Soult approaches. He's earned your rare approval. He holds his hat in his hand, dusted with ash and sweat. You don't need to say much. A look is enough. This ridge, this pivotal slice of land, is now forever linked to his name. He knows it. You know it. And in Paris, they'll know it too. Just then, a light snow begins to fall. Tiny white flecks drift down over the churned battlefield, covering musket balls, blood, and boot prints. It's nature's attempt to clean up after what you've done here, futile but oddly poetic. You reach into your coat, pull out a glove and slowly tug it on, savoring the moment like a chef plating a final garnish. The war isn't over yet, but this campaign, this masterpiece, it's complete. Here's your slice of trivia for the night. After the battle, some Allied officers tried to convince their troops that the French had used some kind of magical fog to conceal their movements. Seriously, like you were running Hogwarts, not an army. The truth was far less supernatural. You simply read the terrain better, forecast the weather, and built a trap so logical it became myth. But hey, if they want to think you cast a spell, let them. Magic is just strategy in a better outfit. Back. In camp, your men begin celebrating. Fires crackle, bread rations are distributed. Wine appears from somewhere, probably looted, definitely appreciated. You let them enjoy it. They've earned it. But even in this moment of revelry, you remain still reflective. You're already writing letters in your head, to Josephine, to the Senate, to the people of France. The narrative has to be perfect. They don't just need to know you won, they need to feel that this was destiny. Speaking of destiny, the Austrian Emperor Francis is already sending feelers. His empire just got body slammed on a continental stage, and now he's desperate for a peace that doesn't feel like surrender. You're willing to talk, of course, but on your terms. The battlefield is your leverage. You don't need to shout. You just need to point to the ridge and raise an eyebrow. A light moment as the sun finally begins to dip toward the horizon. One of your junior officers tries to recite a poem about victory, but messes up the rhyme, swapping glory with laundry. A few chuckles ripple through your tent. You smile just barely. It's enough. Even legends need comic relief. You take one last walk through the smoldering field. Carefully stepping over fallen weapons, you pause now and then. Not in mourning. Not yet, but in recognition. You know the weight of what you've done. You didn't just outfight them. You outthought them, outpaced them. You made them chase shadows until they collapsed into light. There's no honor in slaughter, but there's symmetry in strategy. And today was a perfect equation. Behind you, the ridge casts a long shadow over the plain. It's not just terrain anymore. It's a monument, a theater stage, the place where you taught Europe how to lose with style. And soon, everyone from Lisbon to Moscow will know the name. Austerlitz. The battle that redefined what one man with a map, a foggy morning, and just enough audacity could do. Back in your tent, a courier waits with a dispatch from Paris. It's news from the capital. Good, as expected. Your people are already lighting candles in windows. Bells are ringing. Paintings are being commissioned by artists who weren't even at the battle, yet will swear they were right beside you. You sit down, finally. The stool creaks. Your back aches. You reach for a quill. and in the soft, golden glow of candlelight, you begin to write, "Soldiers, I am pleased with you." The rest, as they say, writes itself. You're still awake. The fire in the brazier crackles quietly, casting flickering shadows across the canvas walls of your command tent. The air is thick with the scent of smoke, leather, and melted wax. Outside, the camp has mostly gone quiet, save for the occasional horse whinny or a distant cough. You could sleep, finally, but you don't. Victory makes the world loud, even in silence. Your thoughts are still pacing the battlefield, retracing the curves and corners of Austerlitz like a lover's silhouette you can't forget. And so you stay up, writing, staring, remembering. A servant quietly enters and places a goblet of mulled wine near your elbow. You nod without looking. The warmth is welcome, but your mind's elsewhere, on letters, peace talks, honors to be bestowed. And on the men you lost too. You always remember them, you never write about them, but they are there, lined up behind your eyes every night after a battle. You fought to win. You did win. But the cost still lingers like gunpowder in the folds of your uniform. You tilt your head back, close your eyes for a second, but sleep remains evasive. Oddly enough, one of the most quoted lines from you this night doesn't come from your proclamations or bulletins. It comes from a casual remark you made to an aide. One sharp blow and the war is over. That's what you said about Austerlitz, as if you'd merely knocked over a vase and were explaining it to the cleaning staff. But the truth is, that sharp blow echoed across Europe like a cannon inside a cathedral. And it would take years for the sound to fully fade, a quirky little postscript to this day. The French army, ever practical, recovered hundreds of Allied boots from the frozen ponds the next morning. Soldiers had stripped them from the dead and drying them by the fire. Some say the smell was so bad, even Napoleon's personal guard refused to carry the pile. You grin slightly at the memory. War is terrifying, yes, but it's also deeply, weirdly human. Boots and blunders, glory and frostbite. By morning, diplomats will arrive. They'll pretend to still have leverage, but you already know how it ends. The Treaty of Pressburg is practically signed in your mind. Austria will give up Venice and parts of Germany. They'll pay dearly. Territory, pride, influence, and, more importantly, they'll break ties with Russia, who now sulks eastward, licking its wounds and nursing a Tsar's bruised ego. The Third Coalition is over. Done. A name to be forgotten, like a failed band that released one bad album and vanished. You didn't just win a battle. You redrew Europe. And yet, here you are, sitting at a worn desk, drawing little circles in the margins of a war report. You feel the ache in your bones, the tightness behind your eyes. Your hands tremble just slightly, not from fear or exhaustion, but from the weight of what comes next. Because when you change the world tends to notice, and not everyone likes being changed. The monarchs of Europe see what you did at Austerlitz. They will remember, they will plot, they will wait for you to blink. But tonight? Tonight you don't blink. You sip your wine, you look at the map, and you let yourself feel, just briefly, like the master of time and space. Because you were. Because you are. For now. Outside, snow continues to fall. It covers the last hints of the battlefield like a fresh page waiting to be written on. You imagine what historians will say, if they'll say anything true at all. Maybe they'll focus on the fog, or the frozen lakes, or your uncanny timing. Maybe they'll claim it was luck, or divine favor, or sheer madness. But you'll know what it really was. Patience, deception, and the ability to see a few steps, further than everyone else. A sudden gust of wind shakes the tent canvas, reminding you again of how fragile it all is, how quickly empires fall, how easily leaders vanish into footnotes. But not tonight, not yet. You take one final look at the map and then finally you rise. As your boots crunch the frosted ground outside, a stillness settles over the camp. Some soldiers murmur in their sleep. A few sentries nod as you pass. The stars above are clear now, bright pinpricks over a dark, sleeping world. And for a moment, everything is still. Peaceful. So now, take a breath. Let your shoulders ease. Let the cold quiet your thoughts. There's nothing left to plan tonight. The battle's over. The war is paused. The world can wait until morning. Close your eyes, you're safe now. You did it. And as the snow drifts gently across the darkened fields of Austerlitz, all that remains is silence. A silence not of absence, but of completion. The sounds of battle, once roaring and relentless, have faded into memory. The cold no longer bites but soothes. The firelight flickers softly against the tent canvas, and the world, for the first time in what feels like forever, is still. You're not on a battlefield anymore. You're somewhere warm now, somewhere quiet. The weight of strategy, the pressure of command, they're gone for the night. Your body rests easily, your breath slows. The stars above do not judge. They simply watch, distant and patient. Even, they seem calmer tonight. In this moment, nothing is required of you. No decisions, no speeches, no movements, only rest. Your thoughts no longer race, they drift, like snowflakes on a gentle breeze, settling where they please. You've come through the storm, you've earned the stillness. Outside, the landscape is being slowly rewritten by winter. The sharp edges soften, the scars blur. A white sheet is drawn over the past, tucking it in for the night. There's comfort in that, in knowing the world keeps turning gently, regardless of what it's seen. So let yourself drift now into that still, deep place where even time takes a breath. Let your mind loosen, unspool, surrender. You are warm. You are safe. And for tonight, the Empire can wait. Sleep well, Commander. You've earned it.